Well, for those of you who are back and who managed to find this video, wow, you're in a remarkably select group, a very small one in some way, but you're also part of the beginning of something very, very sweet and very, very special. We hope you come along because if you learn these basic steps of what we're going to take you through, it's going to change you, your life, your family, and hopefully it's going to change the world around us. What excites me so much is after applying this for a significant period of time, months, possibly 2 to 3 years, it enables us as a group to exchange feelings literally because it's part of the process. I won't explain what all that means right now, but over a period of time, it's possible to change. And I'm suggesting that there is a way to grow and change in a way that it benefits not only yourself and your family from the past and the future, but it can ultimately affect all of us currently alive and then affect the universe itself. I know that's a lot, but this is what it's all about. So this just happens to be the cusp between the first month of the year and the second month of the year. In the Northern Hemisphere, it's the first month of after the equinox. It's the equinox, the first month of September, going into the first month of October. And so it's the first of the 3 months of autumn. The 3 months of the autumn has a specific sequence in it that also matches the progression of how the soul grows. The very first thing in the first month was the individuality to come out of what we call the unborn soul, meaning before incarnation, you existed as a group of souls and then came into a specific individuality. Now, I'm calling that individuality at times by different names, but today we're calling it a singularity, meaning that you came into the world as an individual to become singular and eventually to realize in higher states of consciousness how you are unified with all other singular, diversified, and unique souls. So we're suggesting that there is a way to increase your ability to be authentically yourself as a soul in the world. Hence, what that means is to increase your singularity. The only way to increase your singularity is for you to do it, which means you have to utilize the sacred gift of free will with a sincere desire to want to feel, acknowledge, grow, and become more of your real or authentic or actual self. Whatever you want to call that, higher self, true self, spirit, consciousness, whatever you want to call it's fine. Those are words and they have a purpose. You can call it what you want. Whatever you want to be at this point, you can be that. I like to call it soul. Yes, there's a quality about the soul that is unique and personal, but there's also a quality of the soul that connects to higher. But for me, to really connect to higher consciousness is increase my sincere desire to want to feel more. So in this first month, the primary focus has been on individuality, the singularity, and the increase of feelings. Now, that same pattern in the month corresponds to not only the first month of the season or the first month of the year, it corresponds with the first 2 hours of sunset. Sunset is the beginning. So between sunset and midnight, there will be 3 distinct opportunities for you to increase your awareness of yourself. Yes, the singularity of the beginning of something is what we call the peace. So the program is called With Peace. With peace means that at each moment of your experience, you're bringing your attention back to the origin of your unborn, specifically unique soul waiting to incarnate. Now, I'm suggesting to you that it exists like the center point of this circle. It exists at the bottom of your own heart. So I'm saying anytime you want to begin the process of realizing and experiencing your own unique, authentic soul, it is useful to keep going back to that point. Now, we're not actually going back to a time before your conception. We're actually going forward from there into the presence of now. I can explain a bit more of that, but it really helps if you want to feel who you are. Now, I did not much communication. I didn't do much during this first month because it is really to see how much you are self-motivated by the opportunity to want to understand, feel the logic or substance of something so you can know how the substance of it works. Is it logical? Does it make sense? Is it something that you can practice or experiment with? So for me, the first part was how to take this blue ball and put it in the middle of this. Now, for a month, some of you have practiced that. Now, for the second month, that blue ball will continue as you add a second ball. That ball is a skill set of feelings. They're filled with latent attributes of the soul. So in that first ball of singularity, there is empathy, there's creative imagination, there's a whole series of other wonderful gifts of discernment and so on. That's part of the development of that first step. The second step corresponds to the sacred hour between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. This is a profound time because this time period typically is when we wash, clean, brush our teeth, and get ready to go from vertical to horizontal or from the material plane into the spirit world. This is also the place where we leave behind our senses of the material realm and take our higher senses into the spirit world. Hence, we're leaving our body each night as a practice of how to transition from the material world to the spirit world. This is called many things. Sometimes this is called the dark night of the soul. Sometimes this is called the void, the unknown. For some people, going to sleep triggers fearfulness or anxiety. This is very common because sometimes it's just a whole lot like dying. So each night we practice dying to the material world as we enter into the spirit world. So for this second month, this pink-oriented month, we're going to develop a greater sensitivity and a greater utilization of the instrument of the second month. This instrument is the ability to be able to receive, the ability to change. It has many different adverbs and adjectives. It is metamorphosis, it's the void, it's darkness. It means many things to go through this dark singularity of a whole into another and higher world. Because what happens at 10 p.m. to midnight is this other ball. The other ball is a higher realization of where we can go at night when we understand what our development is and we have a desire to pass through this to the higher level. It's basically the difference of at sunset, you can't yet see the stars. But then the darkness comes of the nighttime and you go to bed, or just before maybe you go to bed, you notice that you can see the heavens. This process from sunset to midnight is an extraordinary process. And it's also a skill set that can be developed, utilized, understood, appreciated, practiced, and shared. So I'm going to show you another picture. I put the 3 balls that were vertical inside this circle. Now, just so you know, this is how I see an iris, for those of you who like irises. But inside here is your entire family tree, your birth order, all the times of the day, all the cycles of the year. This is the solstice vertically, this is the equinox horizontally, and this place right there is a very special place in the body I call the laminin, which is a single molecule that holds it all together. Yes, this to me is a single place near the bottom of the heart and just in the back a little ways. So what this is a more graphic representation of what exists inside you that now you can learn to occupy a higher degree of who you are, what you are, through the experience of the sincere desire to feel and grow. It doesn't have to contain any theological or religious potential. You can if you want. It can have any cultural references you want. But this is just you learning to feel you more. Later on, you can apply this in lots of different ways. So the first instrument will be continuously experienced for at least the rest of the year, because every time you go through one cycle of the day, you're cycling through that same place again. And oh, by the way, every time you breathe, you're exhaling and inhaling, and you're doing the same thing all the time. This is a process of the beginning. This is the beginning. Now, in the process of beginning, we're saying that the primary instrument in the middle of all of this is your own appreciation of your own singularity, your own ability or your own desire to be you authentically. So whatever level that you believe you're at the singularity now, it's going to increase. So if you have a sincere desire to feel more of your actual authentic soul as it was originally constructed and set into the universe, that's you. Your distinct individuality will always be you. Now, just so you know, this is inalienable. It cannot be lost. It cannot be killed. It cannot be suicided. It's yours. So even if you kill yourself, you take your identity with you, your consciousness with you, your unique soul with you. Now, if you pass through an entire lifetime without even acknowledging the existence of your own soul and its own potential, I urge you not to do that. If you're here listening to this, you found your way here in order to appreciate a greater quality of yourself. Now, I'm going to suggest a series of exercises that you might engage in. For those of you who've been around for a bit, you know that we do the protocol. All the protocol is the explanation of a method. The method is, what do you do when you're confronted with a triggered emotional reaction? It could be a sadness. It could be a heaviness in your heart. It could be an anger. It could be a grief. It could be a shame. It could be a trigger about something. We all have triggers continuously. They're there 24 hours a day, whether we know it or not. Some arrive according to the cycle of the day, the season of the year, the stage of your genetic progression, the actual age that you are. Now, the difficulty is we are filled with many things from the past. We're filled with patterns of our ancestry, memories of our family tree, frustration, pain, loss, tragedy, jealousy, greed. We have patterns of those throughout us. If you want to be more of your authentic self, then eventually you're going to have to deal with what your mother and your father imprinted inside of you at your conception. Sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with what your grandparents and great grandparents imprinted inside of you with their own conception with their own children. Sooner or later, you're going to have to take the whole composite of this and relate to thousands of years of mankind's collective experience. So how do you become an individual in the midst of your family tree for hundreds of years, perhaps even thousands, and the collective impression given by tens of thousands of years of the gradual evolution of the emotions of human beings? That's all imprinted inside of you. So in the middle of all this, how do you deal with all those things? Because what most people do 99.9% of the time is deny it. They deny it because the pain of dealing with it is painful. It is truly not easy to look at one's grief, sadness, pain, anger, shame, whatever the words that you want to use. It's not easy to feel that pain inside of oneself. It's there all the time. So if we don't actually want to feel it because our own parents didn't want to feel it, and their parents didn't want to feel it, but they had trauma and tragedy that now epigenetically comes down to me, and I was not prepared to deal with it, but trained to not tell the truth, to train to avoid something, or here, eat this, or do that, stay busy, get a job, get a life, do this, educate, make money, do whatever you need to avoid the reality of the truth inside you. That's literally how we exist. Very intelligent people around us don't realize that they use the self-image of entitlement or the self-image of being a victim. People don't realize how often we use a collection of different forms of facade. A facade is an addictive, habitual way of avoiding an unresolved feeling inside of us. Some people, in order to not touch that pain, they want to do the happy, happy, happy. Be happy, be happy, be happy, be happy. Everybody should. Well, yes, everybody ideally, in an ideal environment, everybody would be happy. But we're not going to be there by trying to project happiness toward everyone when it's our own addictive way to avoid the reality of the pain inside of us. I myself, I did many forms of projection to get out of here. I mean, I learned at a very, very early age, literally down to being a toddler, to avoid the violence in my own family. I learned how to get out of here, which is in itself a useful instrument later on, because all of our experiences, they give us experience. But sooner or later, I had to realize that my desire to go into higher consciousness and even to want to see the face of God was actually an avoidance of the pain inside of me. A painful reality, but we all do that in some form or another. Other people, they want to collect more, gather more, get wealthy, get popular, or other people just want to go live alone somewhere in the woods. We all have different ways that we medicate our pain, biochemically, socially, emotionally, sex, drugs, rock and roll. We look for ways to not deal with this pain inside of us. So if you really want to increase the capacity to feel, the goal is to keep expanding this blue ball. Now, the minute you start to do that, you make a sincere desire to want to grow, you're going to see what I call a confetti of unresolved emotions start coming at you from all directions. I mean, it can be something as small as the neighbor's dog bites you, or your coworker threatens you, or something, or something, or something, or you watch a movie and you have a triggered reaction. You'll see a confetti of law of attraction events. What I'm saying, a law of attraction event is something set up by divine mathematics, which means if there's an unresolved issue from one of my ancestors, there's an automatic way that that same frustration of life or God or country or sex or money is now going to become my personal law of attraction. So if my great grandmother or great grandfather had a problem with some form of whatever it is, people, situations, money, I'm now going to receive that event into me. If I perpetuate that event and it's strong enough, then my perpetuation of that event is going to trigger a physical, emotional symptom or disease inside me. No, I'm not going to be able to eliminate that by being happy, happy, happy. That's just another form of sublimating the responsibility to feel it. So my suggestion is, when you find yourself troubled by something, noticing something, and eventually even when you're not noticing something, just simply make a circle that comes from about an arm's reach away, and make a circle with two hands or one or none, but make a circle back to this point. What's that point? It's right there. It's at the bottom of the heart. So if I have a trigger of frustration, I notice the trigger. Instead of pushing it back, I welcome it. Thank you. Come on in. Next. Thank you. Come on in. Next. Because you'll find you'll have a variety of different triggers throughout the day. If you're making a sincere desire to grow in your capacity to feel, you're going to be actually guided to the right confetti of emotional law of attraction so that you can gradually begin to resolve that unresolved feeling. The ability to be able to resolve that is the second ring. Let me explain the second ring. That second ring, we call it four girl, doesn't mean much to a lot of people. The first one is two girl, but that corresponds to mother's mother. The next ring is mother's mother's mother, but they also correspond to hormones, glands, and body systems and organs. But we're saying that the first one, the singularity of self, now has an instrument called the ability to transform. In some cases, yes, that's going to be forgiveness. That's going to be an alchemical experience. That's going to become transparency. That's going to become, if you want, gratitude. That's going to become many different words. Ultimately, it's going to be grace of the heart, where no matter what you're surrounded with in cruelty, COVID, pain, suffering, aliens, or whatever else troubles you today, that you can be able to receive that with peace in your heart. That's what with peace means, that no matter what comes to you, however small, do your best to feel it. Later on, you can do other things with it and redirect it. No, we're not always trying to release it, particularly if it's an early childhood trauma. It's frozen. We don't want to release it. We want to liberate it. So the liberation of a childhood frozen memory becomes another instrument in our own maturity, our growth, our strength. We want to liberate those. Some other ones that come from your grandparents, you don't actually want to liberate those. They don't belong to you. Somebody else put them there. So eventually you learn what to receive and what not to receive. And I urge you, I wouldn't suggest you try to process the collective consciousness of mankind for the last 10,000 years. Yeah, tried that once. It took me about a year to recover. No, please, I urge you can try to take on the collective pain and suffering of humanity It was an ignorant, naive thing that I tried, and it nearly paralyzed me. I would suggest that you don't need to do it, but you eventually need to recognize that you're contributing to it. That's not an easy thing to realize, and that's not part of the talk today. Right now, we're talking about the instrumentality of being able to receive and welcome what it is that actually transforms your own emotional experience gradually. So if you have a sincere desire to feel something without knowing it, you might have, for example, a stroke or a heart attack or a cancer already set up in your etheric body or your astral body. You might already have an epigenetic pattern coming to you to just wallop you, and you just make a slight little error in your calculations and it comes from several directions and you have a tragic accident or even cause your death, stroke, heart attack. But I'm saying if you choose to feel it ahead of time, it's like a comet coming to the earth that's going to, kill all life on earth, but you learn how to dissolve it before it arrives. What I mean by that is you have the sincere desire to want to feel. If there's something arriving in your field, etherically on your astral field, you'll automatically begin to utilize the second instrument, which is the instrument of transformation. It's the ability for the metamorphosis, the dark swan approach, suffering into beauty, or the caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, or the sinner that becomes a saint, whatever metaphor that you want to use. That is an instrument I urge you to develop. If you only develop these first two and that's all you do and you go away to live your life, good luck. I think you're doing great. If you do the increasing desire to feel and you link that to the hours of the day and the months of the year, you're going to be appreciating the reflection of the divine order in nature, which is by itself its own illusion, but it's going to show you what you can learn from the cycles and rhythms of the month and the seasons of the year and the stages of life. It'll show you what you can learn. And then you can transform into another and higher level. So the singularity comes first. It won't stop. The second instrument, transformation, whatever you want to call it. That's the transformation when you go to sleep and you go into the spirit world. And why do we want to do this last ring of the white light or the time between 10 p.m. and midnight? Because beauty is there. The grace of receiving from the divine spectrum is there. All of the wondrous, beautiful things that you can imagine and not imagine yet, they exist there. Yes, that's the realm of, serotonin and DMT. Yes, that's the realm of visionary. Yes, that's the ability to see far across the cosmos and above the cosmos. That's number 6. That's that third ring. Self, others, all. Right now, month in the sphere, the second month, we're going to be focusing every day, every week on the combination of these two, the singularity and the transformation. Phew. Now, that's a lot. Just even to consider those possibilities is slightly transforming if you just sit through this long enough. Now, I have to admit, I'm excited, I'm emotional, I'm passionate about this. I can see the probability of where it leads. And I'd love to be able to provide a place for you to learn, share, experience this. I'm looking forward for how that works. But now I'm going to leave you with another graphic. And that graphic shows this one not in a static image, but in the rotation of feelings and time. Well, it's a wheel of everything. It's only a graphic, But I can assure you the actual experience of it is far more beautiful than the graphic. Yes, I've had the opportunity to see it. So just enjoy this image, and I hope we see you again. If not here, then certainly somewhere else. Take care. Thanks for coming.